Alexis. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Elas Direct, and I'm an Endeavor entrepreneur. So Elas Direct is a company that I co-founded together with Emilios at the beginning of the Greek crisis. We're a next generation insurance company. We use technology and data to be able to make insurance, and especially retail insurance. So we're talking about cars and homes and mopeds and motorcycles. And we try to make it affordable, accessible, and personalized. It was tough. I mean, when we first came into the market, this was a market that was about to go into disarray. We never expected the macroeconomic environment to be as bad as it was. We always came in with a contrarian approach, but we never expected this to be the longest and deepest crisis in modern history. So in the beginning, it was very difficult to find funding, difficult to set up. You were going against the big boys. So you're going against big multinational insurance companies and you're trying to disrupt them. So that was tough. Scaling up during the Greek crisis, I think we managed to get ourselves up and going. Right now, we've got 170 million in revenue. We've got about close to 1 million customers across three markets, so Greece, Romania, and Cyprus. And it's looking good. I mean, we're very excited about the market, about the region, about everything that we see around here. I think it's changed a lot. I mean, when we first started, and it was at the very genesis of Endeavor as well in Greece, I think you could fit all the entrepreneurs of Greece probably into a room like this one. There was the open coffee that still goes on, which was a ritual almost for most of us, that you would get in a room and you would hear stories from one another. And I think you could fit all of them. Literally, there were 25, 30 people around at the time. And now it's fundamentally different. I think the ecosystem is much more professional. There's a lot of professional investors. There's a lot of respectable entrepreneurs, sometimes 2 or 3 times exit entrepreneurs that operate here. So it's a very dynamic market. And I think Endeavor had a lot to do with that as well, but also the macroeconomic environment changing that enabled a lot of good talent to come back home. So I think that has definitely been a pivotal point in my view. I think it's weird because Greece was kind of out of sync with the rest of the world at that point in time. So we were coming out of, again, a very deep crisis. And straight after COVID, where I think Greece handled it pretty well, given circumstances. And suddenly when the rest of the world was going down, I think Greece was still catching up from coming up macroeconomically at least. So a lot of the technology companies over here were not really that impacted by the global shrink in valuations or the collapse of the tech system. So I think in a weird sense, we've been shielded by that. That being said, obviously if you're raising money and you're speaking to international investors, that's a tough sell because you have to convince them that, hey, Greece is actually in a good place and they're not in a good place. So I think that's a bit of a challenge over there. I mean, in total to date, we've raised about 85 million through different rounds. The first time was mostly family offices. Then we got a bunch of institutional investors on board, like the Power Corporation of Canada, the IFC, the EBRD invested with us recently. In the latest round, we wanted to find value-add investors both from Greece and international. The round was led by ETF Partners, which is a sustainability fund. That was new for us. We always had a soft spot for that. And obviously being in insurance, being in Greece, that is in the hot belt of climatic change, we wanted to see how we can improve on that one and hopefully add value. And ETF, we found a great fit with them, so they led the round. And at the same time, we found the opportunity to get 5G Ventures in our cap table. They're effectively the sovereign wealth fund of Greece. It was ring-fence money from the Greek state wanting to encourage technology companies and companies like ourselves that are making an impact, especially with new improved 5G kind of networks. So for us, it wasn't difficult, but again, we've got a pretty good story and we never went through the crazy valuations of InsurTech. When you look at 5-6 years ago, companies like ourselves were raising money in the billions of valuation. We never went through that because of the macroeconomic environment. So for us, it was okay. I think the funding landscape has changed significantly in Greece over the last 10 years. On the VC front, there are VCs now. We didn't used to have them. And obviously, like any VC, I think a lot of them need to get more and more experience. And I think some of them are improving significantly. So they're becoming European level VCs as opposed to localized ones. On the growth stage, I think there's still a gap. There's definitely a gap there's a couple of funds that operate in that space, but I think they don't really have the experience or the expertise that somebody international would have. That being said, what you have seen in the last couple of years is a lot of foreign growth funds that are starting to look into Greece. So when you look at Carlyle investing in Hack the Box, today was announced that General Atlantic is investing in Epsilon Net. We know for a fact that 2-3 very solid premier type of growth players are looking into Greece all the time. So I'm quite optimistic that the expertise that these guys bring on board, if they can team up with some of the locals, there will be a catching up on that phase as well. But on the early stage VC side, it's much easier to raise money these days than it was when we were starting. I mean, at the time, we didn't really have a choice. I think there's been a lot of good steps in the right direction. So I think efforts are now a little bit more organized in terms of attracting talent from abroad, in terms of attracting investors. I think that the latest government has done great leaps of progress in that. We're always screaming and shouting about not having enough talent. So that's something that I think is a global shortage more than a Greek one. And I think getting a lot of the more experienced entrepreneurs, the ones that have had an exit or are close to an exit, mentor back and give back to the younger guys, I think that's a big difference. So back to the point, I don't think there's much to change right now on the regulation side. I think that has been improved significantly. And it's just a question of how to make sure that you have this virtuous circle popping up out of existing entrepreneurs. The funny thing is that when we were starting, youth unemployment was at 70%. We used to get 7 CVs a day. When you do the maths of how many people we accepted, that's more competitive than Harvard, just to put it in landscape. However, there was a lot of noise. I think the Greek universities, even today, are not geared up to deliver fully professional, developed, whether it's developers or marketing guys or whatever. We're not as close to the academic community as we should be. And I think there are steps being made right now to improve it with foreign universities coming here and all that. The way we hired tech guys was mostly from abroad, Greeks that were looking to come back to Greece or Cypriots that were looking to go back to Cyprus. So we split our product unit in 2 locations. A lot of them started coming back after COVID, so I think that was quite helpful. But we literally had to go and look at all the graduates of Imperial or Oxford or Cambridge and saying, this guy looks Greek, let's bring him back. Or that woman looks very, so it was that kind of effort. The tech visa that is being implemented now, I think will make a difference. Post-COVID, a lot of people want to live in areas that are not necessarily in one place. So these nomads, I think we're beginning to benefit from that. And I think the geopolitical instability of the region, Greece has a great chance of captivating it, whether it's Israel and what's happening in Gaza, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Russia. When you look at all these things around, there's a lot of good talent across the board there. So if we can attract these guys to come here, I think that's a great first step. I can tell you about our experience. We were the first company to be selected here. Endeavor at the time didn't even have an office. So we were meeting in cafes with the team. And we've been lucky enough to follow the journey of Endeavor. And Endeavor has been hugely instrumental, I would say, in Hellas Direct since day one. Some of the first entrepreneurs we met, whether it's Adrian and Barry in Discovery in Endeavor South Africa, they have changed the way we thought about insurance at the time. That was one of our first meetings that Endeavor set up. Then we were lucky enough to get Endeavor Catalyst. We were the first European company to be invested in by Catalyst. And through the years, both Emilios and I have been quite active, both in ISPs and also I recently joined the board. I invested in Catalyst. So it's the whole circle, right? I think the way that Endeavor has helped the broader ecosystem here is showcasing some of the role models, I would say, not just in Greece, but also in the region. I think the Endeavor Greece team is actually having a more dynamic role in the broader region, whether it's new offices like Bulgaria, like Romania now, and things like that, or even more experienced players like in Endeavor Turkey that has been around for longer. More importantly, I think it's mentorship. It's about a feeling of community. When you have an insecurity or a question that entrepreneurs constantly have, to know who to call, and Endeavor has been fantastic in doing that. So again, looking at it from the outside, I think Endeavor has progressed significantly as a global organization and as a local organization over the last 10 years. And definitely in Greece, a big pat on the back for everything that's going on in entrepreneurship is because of Endeavor. I think, and then just to add to the mix, both Emilios and I are not from here. So it was not a homecoming exercise. It was a capitalistic move. We both worked at Goldman in London and the US before that. Our careers, both of us, we spread between consulting and banking. Tried to escape a couple of times, couldn't make it to film. And then at some point in time, we just realized that we wanted to start our own thing. And when you look at such big shifts in macroeconomic trends, like what Greece was going through in 2011, 2012, that was too obvious of an opportunity. I think for us, it's a personal choice. I don't think everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. So once you see that you're excited by the challenge and you find like-minded people that want to do the same thing, I think that was the genesis of Let's Direct. Had it not been for Emilios, I would have never started. I think had it not been for me, I didn't think he would have started. So there is a little bit of that serendipity element to it as well. It's an exciting time for us. I mean, we're now probably the 6th largest insurance company in terms of fleet size in Greece. We expanded in Romania. We have a 6% market share there as well. So we are looking at all these underserved markets or blind spot markets in Europe. We're looking at expanding in Czech Republic, Slovakia probably this year. Next couple of years, we're looking at Croatia, maybe Poland, we'll see. And more importantly, I think we're becoming more and more of an ecosystem player. So when you look at our clients, they don't just want insurance, they also want assistance services like last mile, come pick up my car, take it to a garage to be serviced and all that. But more importantly, they need financing and financing to buy a used car. And I think that's where sustainability comes in, because when you look at the Greek fleet, we have the oldest fleet in Europe, is 17-year-old cars that needs to be replenished. And we're in the heart of that ecosystem. We have the clients, we have the whole value chain built up. So figuring out a way of helping our clients buy a 4-year-old car as opposed to a 20-year-old car that they're driving now is not only sustainable because it's actually environmentally much more friendly, but it helps them because it gives them accessibility to mobility and something which is very necessary. We're probably going to do exactly the same in the home ecosystem as well. We've got about 6.6 million homes in Greece. When you look at how many are insured, it's only 16%. And that's a big protection gap when you think that we're in a seismic zone, where climatic change is changing things, floods, fires, and all that. So we're really excited about the future. I think it's, again, 2 axes. One of them is international expansion. The other one, add additional ecosystem products to our client base here. It's always difficult to predict these things. I think it only takes 1 or 2 companies to actually go full circle, to serve both as role models, but also for money to come back into the ecosystem by the founders investing back and all that. You're beginning to see a little bit of that. So the minute you have that, I think Endeavor has shown globally that you have this explosive, exponential growth. So I'm very bullish on the market over here. I think a lot of international funds are now getting more and more comfortable with the idea of investing in Greece, which was an absolute no-go 10 years ago. And I think that will be a catalyst as well. Again, we always like to compare ourselves with, how far are we from an Israel or Silicon Valley and all that. I don't think that's the right analogy. I think you have to look at the specifics of each market. And I think what we're beginning to see is that entrepreneurship is no longer a taboo. There's a lot of good tech talent. If we manage to harvest the educational system over here, we do have good engineers. We just need to make them a little bit more practical as opposed to theoretical. So I'm very, very bullish about it. Now, what percentage of GDP will it be? I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, from day one, as a Let's Direct, we've been quite actively involved in giving scholarships to different kids that will go into university, whether it's locally or abroad. We've been quite active, I would say, civic servants over here. The one thing, though, that really is close to our heart is something that we started 2-3 years ago. We started fixing roads. There's a lot of potholes and, paved zebra crossings, pedestrian crossings that haven't been fixed for a long time. And we started doing it on our own ground. We never did it for marketing reasons. I think we realized that right outside this room, there is a zebra crossing over here that the lights change too fast. So we tried to fix it. And we realized that this always falls between the various municipalities, the police, the traffic, this and then the other. And at some point we said, okay, enough is enough. Let's go fix potholes. So that's what we do. And now we work with the municipalities, whether it's in Athens or outside Athens, to fix roads. I think last month alone, we fixed about 700 potholes. We literally go out at night. In the beginning, it used to be us. So Emilios, myself, and the rest of the crew would actually go and literally do potholes. And more recently, obviously, we scaled it up. We've institutionalized it. We're now working with the municipalities. The consumers just, the citizens just drop us a line saying, hey, there's a big pothole outside the school. Can you come and fix it? And we literally, within 24 hours, we'll try to fix it. It's a great initiative. Hopefully it will serve as a motivation and inspiration for others to follow, whether it's alongside us or even on their own initiative. But when you look at, all cars, as we said before, big potholes in the streets. The Greeks would generally like to travel, whether it's Easter, which is upcoming, you travel quite a bit. So yeah, fixing roads is very important for road safety, and that's something we feel strongly about.